All right, good afternoon, everybody. Only two more speakers between you and happy hour. So I promise not to talk really slow. All right, I'm new to wearing glasses, and I got to tell you, I should have gone for the anti-glare because that light is really bright. And for the people at home, they didn't give us makeup, so just keep that in mind as you're watching the presentation, all right? Okay, so I'm with Colonial Pipeline, as Carl mentioned, working in the Asset Integrity Program. I don't have a Colonial system map. We're a refined products pipeline basically running from Houston, Texas to northern New Jersey. Linden, New Jersey is the terminal point. We are large diameter, thin wall line, mainline system, and then stub lines that run off that system to a number of delivery ports and terminals. So I want to talk a little bit about our experiences, but also you could change that CP to an MP. I have my own perspective. I spent several years at PRCI, Pipeline Research Council, working on their research programs, working on technology development, and then prior to that, 20 years in the environmental field. So the presentations on the session prior to this one were very interesting to me. I'd like to follow up with some of the presenters and talk with them a bit about some of the presentations, perhaps even have some debate and disagreement about some of the things I heard, but that's without saying. We'll talk more about that later. But I think the point is I have a pretty broad perspective, and I want to share some of that broad perspective here with where I think we need to go to get to zero. So again, it's from Colonial perspective, but also the broader liquid operator perspective. So some opening statements I wanted to present here. I know we heard comments about and concerns from Max about the term robust. I do believe that the integrity management programs that operators have are very robust, and Alan mentioned it earlier. They continue to evolve. When you put IMP in perspective of Superfund, some other regulatory programs that are out there, it's still pretty new. We're still evolving, we're still learning things, and we're bringing those learnings in to improve our programs continuously. I think all actions involve risk. We all know that. There's nothing that's not without any risk at all, so we have to accept that in our day-to-day life and in operating our systems. I put the reference here to Six Sigma. Part of my background was working for a General Electric company, and Six Sigma is a program that they use religiously, if not, or extensively, if not religiously. So Six Sigma allows for 3.4 million defects per million opportunities. So reaching a Six Sigma level in most environments, operational, manufacturing, that's about as high as you can get. That's a huge challenge, but that's something to keep in mind. It's not zero, but it's a measure of as close to perfection as most people can get. So just, again, some reference for you. And the pipeline industry discovers and repairs far more features and anomalies than we have fails. So I'll hit that a little bit more as I talk about data management and data integration. But at the same time, there is a need, there is a recognition that we need to improve. We have to do better on our performance. All right, you saw this slide, or you saw this chart, I'm sorry, earlier in John Studi's presentation. This is straight out of the API-AOPL Strategic Plan 2016. And again, just to show this chart again, that you can see the reduction in incidents, you can see the reducing trend. It does flatten out. Those data are facts. It is a 52% reduction from 1999 to 2015. But the bottom chart shows the 2011 to 2015 data. You can see that there is an increase, absolutely. We do look at that. That is in the report. It is all transparent. That's out there and publicly available. But you can also see that the number of increases ties more to facilities than it does to mainline releases. That doesn't make it right, but we do try and focus our time, energy, and effort on HCAs, on pipeline right-of-way incidents versus facility incidents. We do have facility programs. I will talk about that. I'll talk about what we're doing to improve the integrity programs in facilities. So John hit a lot of these issues earlier, a lot of the same data. In fact, I had that little blue bubble chart, and I had to take it out because I didn't want to be redundant, so I put it into text instead of the bubble chart. So he had up there earlier about 5 barrels. Releases of less than 5 barrels are up 27%, greater than 50 barrels down 12, and then greater than 500 barrels down 32% over that 5-year period from 2011 to 15. So in 2015, there were only 5% of the releases that were greater than 500 barrels. So again, the emphasis is on preventing those high consequence, low probability releases on our pipeline mainlines. But back to Six Sigma. So if you look at our reliability from product in to product out, we're at 99.999%. That's really good performance in almost any industry, in any manufacturing environment, any production environment. So you see the Six Sigma number there right next to it. So strictly from a volume perspective, it's very good performance from the industry perspective. So I know we talked a lot about, I think it was Carl who said, one person gives you one view and another one gives you the exact opposite view with the same data. You know the old saying, torture the numbers, they'll tell you what you want. But this is real data, this is factual information. So our performance trends, we need to improve. We've got an uptick in incidents, and I want to talk about what actions we're taking to actually address that. But before getting to the actions, really just to show the commitment to safety. So I've listed the Liquid Industry Shared Pipeline Safety Principles. Again, this is out of the AOPL API 2016 Strategic Plan. I won't go through every one of them line by line. You can see them up there on the screen. But these are the principles that the liquids industry is using to implement their IMP programs. And the three legs of the IMP stool are people, process, and technology. You'll hear from Lorna talk in more detail about those three legs of the stool. All of them, you take any one away and the program doesn't work, the stool's going to fall. But it's really a function of how they all interact, how they relate to one another. The implementation of the program relies on all three, and they have to be in harmony. There's lots of moving pieces and parts, which makes it very challenging, but not impossible. Again, there's data systems, there's processes, there's things that we're doing to actually ensure that those cogs in the wheel are moving in unison, the way we want them to. When they don't, you can see the Swiss cheese chart up there. I think a lot of you have seen that in a lot of the failure analysis discussions that you've probably all heard from other industry conferences. When they don't align, you've got you've got a consistent lineup of holes when all your barriers fall out of place, when they don't perform as intended, and that's when we have our incidents. So again, not a routine occurrence, rare occurrences, but they do happen. Okay, so taking action to get to zero. So from the people side, what we're really trying to focus on is understanding and managing human factors. We're looking for the next generation of pipeline engineers, all right? That's a big challenge. I think everybody's heard, not only in pipeline industry, but lots of industries, we've got an aging workforce. We need to replace that aging workforce. We really need to emphasize the STEM elements of education in the country. I'm not running for president, so don't worry about it. This is not my platform. But I think as an operator who looks for that next wave of professionals who are going to come in and take that institutional knowledge that's been developed over the years. Colonial was constructed in 1962. There aren't many people left from the original construction, but we have lots of people who have been around 30, 35 years. You know, it's capitalizing on that knowledge, bringing that institutional knowledge that they own and they possess and transferring that over, as well as in the research realm. I mentioned I worked at PRCI. There's a lot of key researchers, key technical minds in this industry who we're going to lose soon. And we really need to be able to extract that knowledge and pass it on to the next generation. You know, I do think that if we keep painting a very negative picture of the industry, it's going to be hard to attract people to want to come and work in it. But it's something that we run a co-op program. I know other companies do that. We're trying to engage the next generation and really bring them in. There is a group called Young Pipeline Professionals. Pat Veith at Dynamic Risk is helping head that up along with Chris Yoxall at Rosen Inspection. It's a great, great program. We need to continue to support it, and we need to keep bringing the next generation in. And then knowledge transfer. And back to the young generation, they learn differently. That's one thing we've learned. How they process information, how they learn, how you communicate with them is completely different. So just some things to think about on the people side. Process. These are all of the recent recommended practices that have come out from the API technical committees. It's a substantial number. I'm not going to go through and list them all. You've heard about a lot of them in the prior presentations. The real issue here and the key factor for you to understand is that this is part of that continuous improvement process. What we're bringing back is the knowledge as the IMP evolves, and we're putting it back into existing standards. They're required to be reaffirmed on a routine basis, but when we believe it's appropriate to reaffirm them prior to that 5-year interval or 6-year or whatever that time frame might be, we bring those back up. We bring it back on the table, and we bring that new information to play for the industry. So there's a whole list of things that we're doing on the process side to continue to push the envelope and work our way to the goal of zero, okay? Talking about technology. So that's the people and process side. Now let's hit technology. So one of the things we always talk about is pipeline inspection. First thing we look at, and I think the first thing most people ask when there's an incident is, when was it inspected? What ILI data was run? What kind of mitigative measures did they have? I mean, that's where we all jump to as an industry. So I wanted to bring this up. So performance specifications are set, and they follow a defined process. We just heard from David that the vendors are doing a great job. We've really progressed ILI technology. We keep getting the next generation, and they're listening and working with the operators to continue to develop it. But we generally use, and one of the ways we develop the standards and the specifications is through a set of manufactured samples. Manufactured calibration standards is what we like to call those. So whether for ILI or in the ditch non-destructive, you have to have some basis of measuring the performance. In the past, we didn't have the opportunity to have a lot of real-world features. The response to real-world features versus manufactured features can be different from a remote sensing technology, sensor technologies that go on these ILI tools. So one of the things we've been doing as an industry is working on harvesting samples that we can obtain from decommissioning projects, replacement projects, samples that, or replacement sections that have real-world features that are really going to help us enable the ILI vendors to better understand some of those interacting threats that we talked about, some of those more challenging features. The opportunity to continuously use those and run them through ILI pool testing is a substantial advantage and helps everybody, both the operators as well as the ILI vendors. It gives them a basis to drive the next level of technology development. So we've worked with Pipeline Research Council again. PRCI is in effect most of the major natural gas and liquids operators in North America. So it represents a broad spectrum of the people who need these technology developments, and it includes a lot of the ILI vendors as well. So PRCI has developed a technology development center. It was largely supported by the membership, and these just show some pictures of what we're doing at that facility, how we're able to take access to the real-world samples that the operators are providing, and then use some state-of-the-art capabilities that have been developed down there to better understand and improve the ILI and other inspection technologies. I don't list a lot about the other in-ditch, non-destructive. I don't have a lot of time. They're flashing 2 minutes on me already, so if anybody's interested, I can talk with you after the session. But the facilities is where we're seeing the increase. So I thought it was important to at least raise that we are addressing it. Again, facilities are different. They're different challenges. John mentioned it in his presentation. They represent a different set of challenges for the pipeline operators, and they have different risks. They're clearly not, in most cases, I shouldn't say always, but in most cases, they're not as, the consequences of a release aren't as significant as they're going to be on a pipeline right-of-way. In fact, in a lot of cases, there's really no, I shouldn't say no, very limited impact to the environment or human health. But both PRCI and SEPA have initiatives that they're looking at from facility integrity perspective, and then just some of the technologies that are being used now to look at facility integrity breaches. We've got tracer gases that are being used. You just fill the lines up with tracer gas, you run your sensors around a facility, and you find out where your leaks are at. We've got internal corrosion probes. That's something that we have adopted as a company for monitoring corrosion growth rates in some of our tank lines, where internal corrosion tends to be the primary threat. We're also looking at new or alternative technologies that, I mentioned fit for purpose here on the slide. These aren't the same technologies that we use out on the right-of-way. They have different demands, different needs. The challenges that you can see from the picture up there is that these aren't all piggable lines. They're different from a lot of our mainline right-of-way piping, and they present different challenges. So, don't pound the square peg in the round hole. I think we fell victim to that, as well as some other companies, of taking standard technologies and thinking we could apply that in facilities. So we need to be a little more aggressive. And then this picture down here, the down on the bottom, is a sensor seal. It's got a leak detection sensor built right into the gaskets and seals. It's something that's a project that was funded by DOT. It's got great potential and just needs to be integrated into our operations at our facilities. And then the last thing, I'll try and rush through here, is data. You've heard it a lot. Alan mentioned big data. I'm not sure exactly what big data is. I've never really had anybody define for me what it means. But I do believe that the key to us improving and getting closer to zero is in data analytics. There's a lot happening outside of the pipeline industry. It changes every day. You buy a phone, and as soon as you take it home, it's obsolete. The world is progressing rapidly, and the information that has to be managed is incredible. You know, we're running more and more tools, we're getting more and more data, we're getting farther into our integrity programs, and we are going to be inundated with zeros and ones. And interpreting that data, using the analytics that come out of that to find that piece of information that actually matters, that gives you that leading indicator, that's a big drive for us right now as an industry, and I think we've heard it from everybody. That's a common theme. So we really need to stay focused on that and look at data mining. And I won't spend a lot of time on the information exchange. You heard about safety tailgates and other things. So again, I do support and believe that the programs are robust. I fully support and believe that they need to get better. We're not where we need to be. We're not at zero. We're not at Six Sigma, at least from a release standpoint. From a product movement standpoint, again, you saw my earlier numbers, we can make that argument. But while the goal of zero might be attainable, it is going to take us time. Again, it's a relatively new program. We are continuing to evolve and mature. You heard a lot of presentations about, you know, some technologies here, some of the big challenges we have. They're certainly taken into consideration as we continue working down that path. But I've just made a list of, to get to zero, what I think we need. Certainly investing in people and continuously improving the technologies and processes. We need to continue to push the safety culture, the SMS that's out there. Everybody's behind it and pushing it forward. We really need innovation, new approaches, new technologies. We've got to keep pushing that envelope really hard. And data mining and advanced analytics I just mentioned. But really, outside of all that is the people part. We really need some industry leaders and leadership. And you know, the 80-20 rule applies here. We tend to see 80% of the work done by 20% of the people. I think we really do need the next generation to start stepping up and taking some of that leadership role. But as an industry, we do need folks to step up and really take those leadership positions. And then finally, collaboration. I think we need to keep working collectively together. Again, I heard a lot today about how we are working in that collaborative environment, the transparency, getting working groups together, and really trying to continue to use the information and data we have to get to zero. So, be safe, all right? So just remember, if something doesn't look safe, it probably isn't, and you should probably say something to somebody you see doing that, okay? Thanks.